Welcome to the first ever Hangout on the Union Budget.
Hello all of you and welcome to the first ever Google Hangout with the Indian Finance Minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram. In fact, it's the first time that an Indian Cabinet Minister has taken part in a Google Hangout. It's a platform that's becoming increasingly popular with leaders across the world, President Obama, Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard, Narendra Modi being some of the leaders who've used a Google Hangout. I'm Senthil Chengalvarayan coming to you live from the CNBC TV18 headquarters in Mumbai. Do join me in welcoming the Finance Minister who's joining us from his offices in North Block, New Delhi. Mr. Chidambaram, pleasure to be with you on this historic Hangout, sir.
Thank you.
Well, we aren't alone, Mr. Chidambaram. We've got 6 other Indians waiting to put you, if I may say, on the hot seat. And there'll be others sending in their questions by messages and video through the next hour. First, we've got a student from Bangalore. I am Bangalore, Rachel, Vardhan. Rachel, thank you for joining us.
A very good evening to Mr. Chidambaram and the other esteemed guests present. I'd like to thank the Finance Minister for providing me with this opportunity. Thank you.
Mr. Anand Mahindra, Chairman and Managing Director of Mahindra & Mahindra, joining us from his offices in Mumbai. Anand, thank you.
Good evening, Senthil. Good evening, Finance Minister, and a big hello to everyone.
Mr. Manish Chukani, MD and CEO of Axis Capital, joining us also from Mumbai. Manish, thank you.
Well, a very good evening to the Finance Minister. I don't envy his job, answering questions for the last 3 days. And a big hello to all my fellow participants.
We've got Mr. Jahangir Aziz, Senior Asia Economist and India Chief Economist, JP Morgan. Jahangir, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, FM, and thank you for the invitation.
We've got Ms. Kala Kudva, she's a homemaker from Bengaluru. Kala, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Finance Minister, and thank you for coming to this Hangout, and a big thank you to the Google team for inviting me for this great opportunity.
Well, it is indeed a lovely opportunity for all of us. And finally joining us is Mr. Amit Singhal, Senior Vice President at Google Inc. He joins us from the Google headquarters in Mountain View, California.
Hello, Senthil. Hello, Mr. Finance Minister. It's a pleasure to be here and welcome to a Google Hangout.
It's a first for most of us, Amit. I think you're the only veteran out here. And thank you all of us for joining us here. We're talking to Mr. Chidambaram in the backdrop of the budget that he presented in Parliament 4 days ago. Frankly, it's been years since I looked forward to a budget with as much anticipation as I did for this one. We were really clinging to our investment grade rating, and the slightest misstep from the Finance Minister on the fiscal deficit would have seen a downgrade of the country to junk status. What would that meant for ordinary Indians? Interest rates would have gone up, jobs would have become scarce, the rupee would have fallen. In short, we would have been in a downward spiral from there on. The budget averted that. It laid down a roadmap to putting the country's accounts in order. It made some assumptions on growth that may be optimistic, but not entirely unrealistic. And for that, I rated the budget good when I was asked to in the CNN-IBN studio that evening. Am I completely happy? Well, not really, because while the budget was good in the circumstances, somewhere in the back of my mind, I was hoping for the shades of the dream budget that Mr. Chidambaram presented in 1997, a budget that would have immediately reignited the animal spirits of the economy and got India back in investment and job creation mode. Sir, that unfortunately is the weight of expectations that you have to bear. You're like Dhoni going out to bat, and every time people expecting you not just to salvage a draw for us, but to put us onto a winning track. I'd like to ask you now, sir, for your opening remarks.
Well, you have to look at what was done in the light of the objectives that we set for ourselves. You play according to the pitch. You play according to the weather. The world economy is constrained. India's economy is also constrained. Therefore, there's only so much economic space. Given the restricted economic space, I had set for myself 3 objectives. The first one was, apart from some smaller objectives, the first one was that we must be on the fiscal consolidation path. The second one was we must attract investment. That's the only way to deal with the current account deficit. And thirdly, we must restart the growth engine, especially in manufacturing. Now, one would have liked to do many more things, but there's no space for that. And there are other objectives, not purely economic objectives, but socio-economic objectives, social objectives. We have to look after the scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes, the minorities, youth, the other backward classes. Therefore, given the restricted economic space, I think we have done what could be done. If we get more space, say after the first or second quarters of 2013-14, certainly we can do more. But that's for the future. For the time being, I think we have done all that could be done given the space that was available to us.